March 29th will, of course, be the rematch between William Zepeda and Tevin Farmer. Now, of course, the first fight was on the undercard of Latino Night, where it was a split decision win for William Zepeda. But, of course, split decision, obviously for an A-side fighter, probably means that a lot of people had Farmer winning the fight. And a lot of people did. And not only that, Farmer actually knocked down Zepeda in the fight. So, according to people that promote Zepeda, they're having a rematch to basically show that, he's much more than what he showed last time, right? Give him another chance to do what he was technically supposed to do in the first fight and stop Tevin Farmer. Now, of course, Tevin Farmer is a much more experienced fighter, and, the rematch could go either way. But besides that, on the undercard, the co-main event is Oscar Collazo defending his newly added WBA belt against Edwin Cano Hernandez. That's right, they're fighting for the Unified Championships. Great fight. And of course, the opener between two former Unified World Champion Yokasta Valle versus Marlon Esparza. Very nice. Now, of course, the first fight, Marlon Esparza is 15-2 with one win by way of knockout. She's just coming off of the unanimous decision win against Arley Musino. Very good fight. Very entertaining fight for the most part. And of course, her two losses, one was a technical decision loss to Sinisa Estrada back in 2019. And Gabriela Celeste Alanes, that's right. She first beat her via majority decision. They had a rematch. She lost the titles due to missing weight. And then she lost split decision. To be honest, probably wasn't split decision. I think she lost convincingly. But besides that, she's taking on another former Unified World Champion, Yokasta Valle. She is the former Unified Minimum Weight Champion, and she is 32-3 with 10 wins by way of knockout. Her losses include World Champion for the vacant WBO title, Naiko Fujioka, that's how you pronounce it, and Tina Rupchek, the unanimous decision. And the latest loss was for the undisputed minimum weight championship against Sinisa Estrada. So they have lost to the same people, but it is not the same due to the fact that many people believe it. Yokasta Valle beat Estrada. If you heard the chants at the end of the fight, people thought Estrada lost. Now, of course, people were hoping for a rematch. Unfortunately for Yokasta, Estrada vacated the titles, not like a little bit after beating Valle, so we never got the rematch for the undisputed titles. Say what you want about it, but it's a little weird, right? Especially a close fight. You kind of hope for a rematch, but then again, if you don't have it, if you don't have the fire in your stomach, you just don't have it. But besides that, she has bounced back with a TKO win against Ramadem Kouar and Elizabeth Lopez Corzo for the vacant WBC Minimum Weight Championship. So she is now a champion once again. Arguably the best in the division now that Sinisa Estrada is now gone. To be honest, people thought she was still the best even after technically losing to Estrada. But besides that, it is a very good fight for Costa Valle. They have around similar style. Estrada is more of the puncher bunch, throw a bunch of punches. Not all of them have to land, but it's enough to really ward off people. Obviously you try to punch in between it. Oh, well, two more punches just come your way, and yeah, doesn't end well. Costa Valle is a little bit more technical. Okay, maybe not a little bit more technical. It's more technical with her punches. She has the better kind of work rate. I thought she was going to get outworked by Estrada, but she held her own. Very nice. And considering the fact that I know the triangle never works, I know it doesn't, but considering people thought Valle beat Estrada and Estrada beat Esparza, it's safe to assume Yokasta Valle will most likely win by decision. I think it's going to be a somewhat close fight, but Esparza is getting older, which don't get me wrong. Women, for some reason, seem to age a lot slower than men. They're like 36-year-old whooping ass. I'm like, damn. Right? But I think Valle gets it done. I think she edges out a few rounds, winning her the fight. But besides that, the co-main event, that's right, will be Oscar Collazo defending his unified WBO and WBA minimum weight championship against Edwin Cano Hernandez. Now, of course, Hernandez is 13-2 with one draw, 14 wins by way of knockout, and only one loss by way of knockout. Of course, his losses come by David Jimenez, 8-0. That's the one he lost by the knockout in the third round. And Jimenez is actually doing not too bad for himself after beating Hernandez. He only lost once, and that was to Artem Dalakian. Weirdly enough, it was a very close fight. in Wembley. So I'm not saying I need to watch that fight because a close fight against a British fighter at Wembley. I'm just saying. And what's weird is it was not. And what's cool is that he also beat Ricardo Sandoval and Scrappy Ramirez. Yeah, so he is. So yeah, that Hernandez loss is not bad at all. That dude can fight, right? But his latest loss was a majority decision to German Valenzuela Barrias, majority decision, 16-3. Not as good as a loss, but whatever. But he is coming off of two good wins against Gerardo Sanchez, 9-1, seventh round stoppage win, and Michael Carmona, fourth round stoppage win. Very good fighter. He has some good combinations. He has some decent defense, right? He's not lacking in defense, right? He's not that bad, right? But besides that, he's taking on one of the best fighters in the division, Oscar Collazo, 11-0 with 8 wins by way of knockout. Although not undisputed, but many people have him as the best in the division. Of course, he is coming off of his unification fight against knockout CP Freshmart, where he stopped him in the 7th round. He also beat Gerardo Zepeda, Ramirez Gutierrez, and overall just been having a really good streak of wins spanning a couple years. He's been doing really well for himself. But of course, the fight is, although I like Hernandez's style, obviously who doesn't? He fights fan-friendly style, to say the least, right? But he's not as technical. His striking is not as quick as Collazo, nor does he have really the timing to really catch him. Because Collazo actually, I think he got caught against Zapata, to be honest. I think that was the fight, or it was a Gutierrez fight, but he was caught in one of them, and he was hurt. But unfortunately, I don't think Hernandez has, first of all, not even the power to hurt him, and he doesn't have the timing to even catch him in the first place. And of course, I'm not saying that he's not going to land any punches. I don't think he's going to land any critical shots, if that makes any sense, right? So give me Collazo by stoppage. I think that, although not bad defense, I think Collazo cracks him, stops him, and adds another very good name to his resume. I think he should fight the guy that Hernandez lost to. That's so... I mean, he's in a different division. He's now in super flyweight, but come on, you beat a bunch of people back to back to back. I want to see him fight. But besides that, the main event of the evening. El Camarón William Zepeda takes on Tevin Farmer in their highly anticipated rematch. Of course, Tevin Farmer, the former IBF super featherweight world champion, nicknamed two-time. So he's very confident in himself in the fact that he might become a two-time world champion. Now, of course, Tevin Farmer is 33-7 with 1 draw. 8 wins by way of knockout, not known for his power, but he did knock down Zepeda, so he does have power, right? Of course, he has lost quite a bit of time, but, I mean, if you look at those losses, I mean, there's nothing really to say. He lost to Jose Pedraza back in 2012, so, once again, nothing to really laugh at. But it's more his more recent losses, which speaks a lot. Of course, he lost to, before fighting William Zepeda, he lost to Raymond Morataya, which that one is another one where people thought Farmer should have got the nod. Now, of course, it was another close fight, and Farmer was deducted a point for holding, which, I don't know. Didn't really get a good look at it, but it was a close fight. People thought he should have got the nod. But considering the fact that he went the distance and even gave Morataya a lot, shows that he is on top of his game. He's one of the best in the division, arguably. Even though he has 7 losses, he's still one of the better fighters of his division. And then William Zepeda is 32-0, 27 wins by way of knockout. Of course, besides coming off of the split decision win against Tevin Farmer, he beat a bunch of people back to back to back. Of course, his real big win was against Joseph Diaz, back when most people thought Joseph Diaz was a better fighter. Jaime Arboleda, very good fight. Mercedo Gesta, who beat Joseph Diaz before to earn this opportunity. Maxie Hughes and Giovanni Cabrera. He literally beat all of them but Joseph Diaz by stoppage. And these people are not bad people. Mercedo Gesta is a good fighter. Maxie Hughes should have won against George Kambosos. Giovanni Cabrera, I had him kind of winning against Pitbull Cruz, and he stopped them all in basically half the fight. The latest one was 6 rounds, and that was Mercedo Gesta. Of course, in the fight, it really looked like Farmer, kind of not really figured it. If he basically figured him out, he figured out how to block most of his punches. Of course, Farmer kind of slowed down in the second half of the fight, but he managed to block most of the punches. Now, of course, the whole thing was that Zepeda, first of all, he throws a lot of punches. His cardio is insane, but not only that, he also throws a bunch to the body. He's basically the lightweight Caballel, or is Caballel the heavyweight Zepeda, right? But he just throws non-stop punches, a lot of it to the body as well, which obviously breaks down opponents who aren't used to getting punched in the body that much. You know, they train their cores, they train all the things, but they don't think like, oh damn, I'm gonna get punched 20 times consecutively to the body. No one thinks that. But besides that, although the first fight was very competitive, Farmer even knocked him down. It'll be very interesting because although, like I said, it was a close fight, usually these rematches benefit the A side more than the B side. Not to mention they're fighting in Cancun, Mexico, which is such a weird thing because you would assume that the whole bias thing of the judges where people thought Farmer was unjustly done, you would assume they'll find like a middle ground, like, I don't know, Florida. But no, they're finding in Mexico. So probably not the best thing for Farmer, right? But to be honest, I said the same thing about Bivol Beterbiev. I thought Bivol fought the perfect fight and he couldn't replicate it. That was a lie, obviously. So I'm quite interested to see how Farmer does. Now, unfortunately, I do have Zepeda beating Farmer this time around. I don't know, by stoppage, I guess, because the thing is, Zepeda, this is basically who he is as a fighter, right? This is his style. This is, you know, his MO, as the people say. And Farmer has found a way to really negate a lot of the punches from really doing too much damage and managed to knock him down. Not to mention, it was in the 4th round, so he, you know, it's gonna be a very interesting rematch. I don't know. I got William Zepeda by late stoppage this time around. I think because Zepeda just has that power, right? And I think this time a punch does slip through. Okay, I know I sound exactly like I did against with Beterbiev Bivol rematch, and that did not end the way I thought it would. But you know, I don't know. You know, it's a 50-50 matchup. I actually don't know who's gonna win, to be honest. But I'm picking Zepeda by late stoppage. I guess you could say Farmer is only getting older, so you know. Maybe his timing might be slightly off. You never know. But besides that, yeah, I have Zepeda by stoppage. I think he improves enough to beat Farmer more convincingly this time. But anyways, I have Yokasta Valle beating Marlon Esparza by decision. I have Oscar Collazo stopping Edwin Cano Hernandez. And I have William Zepeda stopping Tevin Farmer very late in the fight. I think this is going to be a very great card. Action-packed fights. But besides that, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Tevin Farmer actually pulls it off this time? Or do you think Zepeda wins again? But besides that, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll catch you on the next one.